joining me today. Today I want to talk to you about spiritual incense or resins, as they're sometimes known. Some of the most basic incenses that we use sometimes are resins, but sometimes they can also include herbs that we use for spiritual purposes. But today we're going to focus a little bit more on the resins. So resins are pretty much the sap of some trees. When you cut a tree, there's like a little sap that comes out of it, and that's where they collect the resin from. So one of the most common things that we use or that we think of when we think about cleansing or spiritual cleansing our house or cleansing ourselves, or what some people will call smudging, is sage. Sage is one of the things that I personally don't use very much. I do use it sometimes when I'm doing a spiritual cleanse to be able to smudge a person. I only use it as part of the cleanse, but that's not all that I do when I'm doing the cleanse. And I think it's pretty good, but it's not as effective as I want it to be. So sometimes I do get people in the shop that are asking me, what else can I do, because I've been burning sage and I feel like it's not enough. And then that's when I'll start to either advise them to use other type of resins or other type of incense to be able to get the effect that they're sort of either looking for. So to me, sage is something more that's used like to purify. I think it helps, but it doesn't help to remove a whole bunch of negative energy if you have something heavier sort of in a sense either going on. And obviously we know that it's very popularized with the Native Americans, but what I would suggest that if you're using the sage, you can use sage with sweetgrass. Now this is a sage bundle. It's really small, but usually they come in a bigger version. But for this video, I decided to use this one today, sort of just to be able to demonstrate it to you for visual purposes. So you can burn sage and you can burn sweetgrass. So what the sage would do would push out the negative energy, and then the sweetgrass would bring in positive vibrancies. Okay, so that's something that you can think of. I don't have any sweetgrass with me today, but sometimes they sell it separately, and sometimes you can get it braided in together with the sage. It'll be one bundle with sweetgrass and sage. So that's something that you can use. Okay, so let's talk about some of the resins. Okay, I hope I'm saying that correctly. So the resins that most people think of when they're trying to cleanse is frankincense and myrrh. So these two historically have been used. Even in biblical times, they would use it for spiritual altars and things like that. And we remember the Bible, we remember that these are some of the gifts that the three wise men brought to baby Jesus. Okay, so let's talk about myrrh. Myrrh is good for like purification, but I don't really think it's gonna do something where it's gonna like cleanse a whole lot. And myrrh is one of these resins where you shouldn't burn alone. You should burn it in combination with something else, because some people in some spiritual paths believe that it opens up like a vortex, it opens up like a portal, and it can allow things sort of to come in. Okay, so myrrh is kind of good like for healing, for purification, but again, it's not to be burned alone. What I would suggest that you do is that you burn it in with some frankincense. Okay, so frankincense comes like this. Some people also call it, in the Latino community, they call it incenso de iglesia, but it's frankincense, or what some people will call church incense. Why? Because obviously they burn it at the churches, in the Catholic churches. Okay, but this isn't just the only thing that they burn in the Catholic churches. They mix in the frankincense and myrrh with other things, sometimes with herbs or other things, depending on the occasion, whether it's Easter, whether it's Christmas. Okay, so frankincense is good to sort of, in a sense, either uplift the energy in a home or in a house or in a business. It's good for to able to attract positive energies, being able to attract sometimes even like positive spirits. So what I use here in my house when I'm trying to cleanse here with incense, I'll use the frankincense and the myrrh together, and that's what will burn here in the house. At the shop, I will use that. At the Botanica where I work at, I will use that, but I'll mix it in with other things, because we've got other things going on over there that we don't have going on over here, to be honest with you. So frankincense is good for that. It helps to bring in protection, it helps to cleanse, it helps to uplift energies and things like that. So that's when you can burn it alone, but I would rather have you burn it with the frankincense and the myrrh together. And we're going to talk a little bit on how you burn these incenses, because you're probably wondering that. Another resin that we can use is Copal. So Copal is pretty much known, in Mexican communities. It's one of the things, you know, that the Aztec dancers burns to the deities when they're doing their Aztec dances. So Copal is good for purification, and it also has a vibrancy of love. So if you're trying to create sort of like a harmony in your home, this is one of the ones that you can use. You can use Copal. It'll purify. It's not gonna cleanse like a whole lot, but it's good for purification, and it will bring a little bit of that harmony energy of love. Another one is the black Copal. So the black Copal is black in nature, but this one is said to be good for when you're wanting to start something new. Maybe you broke up, you had a bad relationship, and you want to be able to purify and start something new. That's something that you can burn. You can burn the black Copal. It's also good for, you know, getting things going when you want to start something. Maybe you're trying to start a new business or something like that. That's one of the resins that you can use. Okay. Another one is the benzoin. So benzoin helps a little bit more like for purification. It's good for money, for wealth. So if you have a business, you can do that, but you can mix it with other things. A very common mixture, a recipe that you can use that's not of my own, but it's very common, you can find it anywhere, is that you would burn the benzoin with a mixture of cinnamon and basil. You would burn those two together, and that you're creating like a wealth or abundance type of incense. It's not going to smell the greatest, but it's good for that. It has those spiritual vibrancies. It'll sort of purify, and it'll help to bring in, you know, money or wealth and things like that. So that's a recipe that you can use. Okay. Okay. Another sort of incense that we're sort of familiar with is with the Palo Santo. So the Palo Santo, there's sticks like this, and Palo Santo translated into Spanish means holy stick. Okay. So this is more popularized sort of in like countries like Peru. So how you would burn this, you would get your match, light the stick, the end of the stick on fire, and you want to make sure that it catches pretty good on fire. And then what you would do is that you would, I like to fan it out. I don't like to blow things out because I feel like you push away its positive energy. And then you would walk around with this in your home and your house. So this is good like for purification, and also brings in good vibrancy. So one of the things that I would suggest that you can use the sage, and then after the sage, use the Palo Santo, and it's going to attract positive energy. It's going to attract, you know, hopefully positive spirits around you, but it's also it's going to help to purify too. And it has obviously more purposes, right? So moving along, one of the other resins that people, some of you might be familiar, some of you may not, is dragon's blood. So dragon's blood is also a resin. It comes from a sap of a tree, and I think it's like a Chinese tree or Japanese tree, I might be wrong, but you burn it, and it's good for cleansing, it's good for purification, but it also helps to enhance things. So maybe you're doing some sort of ritual or spell work that's either like for money, for love, for health, or whatever. You might burn some dragon's blood to be able to enhance that. You can also use the dragon's blood if you're working like some negative type of work. I know we don't like to talk about that, but we all know it happens. You could burn that after you're done with your magical working, if we want to call it, right? Or like, let's say you want to cleanse your house and you want something stronger, burn some dragon's blood. I'm a big believer in dragon's blood. I like it myself. I use it a lot in a lot of my spiritual mixtures, incense spiritual mixtures. So I would use that. You know, it helps to increase things, and it's really good for cleansing. It helps with money, with love, and things like that. So dragon's blood is one of those incenses that I really do like. It comes like this. It's really, you know, you can find it at some shops, and they're gonna try to sell it for you for like an arm and a leg. It shouldn't be that expensive. It's a little bit more pricier than some of these other incenses, but this is a good one for that. Okay. And one of the things I want to talk to you too about is being careful. You have to be careful sometimes with the sage, because if you're fanning it around too much, or you're moving it around too much, it will ignite on fire. Ashes will drop, and if you have carpeting, obviously it'll ruin your carpeting. So be very careful with that. You know, you have to be very careful when you're burning these incenses. Even when you're using something like this. So this is how we would actually burn some of these resins. You would get one of these charcoals. This is charcoal. It's not regular charcoal. And they come like in little rolls like this. And this brand, the best brand that I've been able to find to use, is the Three Kings brand, which is the one brand that I would recommend to you. Is that you would get your match, you would strike it, you would burn the end of it. This would all ignite, and it would turn into a red amber. But before it completely ignites, you want to drop it in your incense burner like this. Okay, and then what you're going to do is that you're going to put your resins right on top of it. you're going to put your resins right on top of it, and then you can walk around with it within your house, your home, or your business to be able to get the effect that you're wanting to get, whether it's a cleansing or whether you're trying to attract some sort of, energy. How you actually do the cleanses, I will try to discuss in another video, not in this one. Right now, we're just talking about their purposes, okay? So this is one way that you can burn it. Another way that you can burn it is through something like this. So you would grab your rolls of incense, and sometimes we saw larger ones. You would put them in here, and you would put your incense on top of there. So this is something more that's like really meant to stay in one place. I don't really think that you want to walk around with this, because this is metallic, and it will get hot and might get too hot for you to be able to hold. So you have to be careful with that, okay? Especially when you're trying to do some sort of cleansing, you guys, because if you already know that you have negative energy, it's not like that energy or that negative spirit, if you have one, it's gonna want to go out without its final hurrah. So just be very mindful. Even with these, I've seen some of these where they actually break off. They will break off, and then this goes flying and it catches on fire. So you have to be careful. What I use something that's like this. This is more like cast iron, and it's very sturdy, and I know like it'll last for a while, So that's one of the things. Now, one of the other instances that we can use sometimes for spiritual vibrancies and for cleansing are sometimes like stick incense, okay? Now, I'm not like a big fan of this to cleanse. So if you're going to tell me you're using this to cleanse a house, I'm probably going to tell you you're doing everything wrong, okay? I do use these, I'm not going to lie to you, for a ritual work that I do, but, it is to call in the, positive energy, but I do cleanse before I start that type of spiritual work. I do cleanse with frankincense and the myrrh, and then we start with that incense, okay, to be honest with you. So that's pretty good, and, these are like little matchsticks. These are like little sticks, I think we're all familiar, and you light one end, then you blow it out, and then the smoke starts to come out, and you can get these in all sorts of aromas, whether it's sandalwood, patchouli, coconut, copal, cinnamon, whatever your intent is. Sometimes you can get little cones like this, and what I like about these little cones is that the ash that they leave sort of stays in one place, and they do come with like a little disc where you can lay your little cone in, and you would light it, and then the smoke would come out, and you would use it for its spiritual intent, okay? One of the other ones that I want to talk to you is something that I make myself. It's a self-lighting incense, okay? So basically, my incense lights itself in a sense, okay? Obviously, it does need some assistance from fire, but what you do is that you don't need charcoal with it. You just grab some of it, and you can burn it with charcoal. You grab some of it, you make a little mountain out of it, you light it with a match, and then you blow it out, and it just keeps burning itself, okay? So this is something that I use, depending on the purpose, whether, I'm going to do a reading or something very light, and I want to cleanse the area. So, I will use something like this. So then the smoke starts coming out, it's lighting itself. I'm not relying on having to use, charcoal. As you can see, there's lots of smoke that it sort of, that it creates. So this one right here is, I think it's my exorcism blend. And so I use that, and it just, you can see it's like a ton of smoke that's coming out. So, I mean, you can even cleanse a house, I guess, if you want it with, some of this, So I use that. This is one of my favorite blends, to be honest with you. And I use that, and this is something that you guys can use too. I will try to sell some of this on the website. And so that's pretty good for that. So yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. Please subscribe if you like the video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Jesus. I am a santero. I do work in California. Thank you. Please take care of each other. And thank you so much for watching this.